Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Last 2 days, we had the privilege and pleasure of listening to the learned talks of Swamis who were kind enough to visit us and give us talks, especially on Gita and other subjects. Now we are going back to our old ways. We were talking about, we were reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the commentaries from the book of Swami, Ch-7, and also from the Gita Sandesh of our beloved Papa. Last we read chapter 5, isn't it? That's not completed. Chapter 5 was almost completed, and whatever we learned from the Gita, or rather read from the Gita, was the occasion created for the coming out of Gita from Lord Krishna. That is, Arjuna's going to the battlefield with all courage and enthusiasm. But after seeing his own people standing before him, he got fully unnerved and sought refuge in Sri Krishna for advice. At the same time, we also decided to give up the fight and take to renunciation. Lord Krishna gave him the necessary advice and lifted him up from the mode of depression. He advised that anybody living in the world has to do work. He cannot shirk from any work. Especially a warrior who had the responsibility to defend the country had to fight the war at any cost. Hearing all these things, Arjuna again asked, when Sri Krishna was talking to him about the Atman, and at the same time, two different ways of approach to realize the Atman. One way was to engage oneself in Karma Yoga, and the other, renounce all actions and engage oneself in meditation of the Lord. As Arjuna had already decided to renounce everything, Arjuna again questioned, why he was encouraging Arjuna to fight the war, though the other path was also equally good to reach the goal. Then Sri Krishna explained to him that in any case, though there are two paths, the path of karma was superior to the path of renunciation. Both needed absolute absolute desirelessness as the foundation, though the goal was the same. The path of Karma Yoga was easier to follow, as nobody can be free from any type of work. Even though one may sit idle, saying that he was not going to engage himself in any work, he himself is doing some work, as his body cannot be sustained without some work being done. Even if we sit quiet, so much of work is going on in our system. So one cannot say that he is absolutely actionless. He can be absolutely actionless. That is not possible at all. So Arjuna was again encouraged to engage himself in the war. Now, we need not go into further details. We go to another aspect of the Gita, as it is going to take a very long time to go through all the slokas in all the 18 chapters. We shall select some portions. We now go to chapter 9. Just hold this one.
Chapter 4.
We go to chapter 9. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, "To you who do not cavil, I shall surely declare this, the most profound knowledge, combined with realization, by knowing which you will be released from evil." He is going to give the secret knowledge. This is given to only those people who are prepared for it, who will not say anything bad about it, who will appreciate it and can digest it. The commentary of Sri Swami is this: mundane life itself is an evil, and ignorance is the basis of this transitory life. It is because of ignorance that man embraces evil and suffers from its consequences. I think you bring the other portion, electric portion, is not sufficient. You bring the other one.
I'll bring it.
Electric. It's not sufficient light. Mundane life itself is an evil, and ignorance is the basis of this transitory life. Life itself here is considered evil because it is full of misery. And the cause for this misery is ignorance. It is because of ignorance that man embraces evil and suffers from its consequences. Again, it is because of ignorance that we do evil things and suffer the consequences. Mere intellectual knowledge of Atman would not free man from misery. Simply knowing by intellect what Atman is, what Anatman is, is not sufficient. We must get the experience, then only we can lead the real life and become free from ignorance. The man of self-knowledge alone is free from evil and his outcome misery. So to be completely free from misery, one has to get the knowledge of the self. Knowledge not merely book knowledge, but experience of the self. To say that I can be really happy only after self-realization is all right to some extent. But even those who are trying for self-realization, at the moment they start it, and the moment by moment when they progress on the path, they will be able to experience more and more peace and be happier than what they were before. So the more they progress, the more peace they can enjoy. Not so soon. Cavil, which is born of conceit and jealousy, is a rotten disease of the mind that prevents man from rising in knowledge and wisdom. Cavil, what is the actual meaning of cavil? To make fun of other things, to belittle other things. This is born of conceit and jealousy. This is a rotten disease of the mind that prevents man from rising in knowledge. A man who has this disease cannot rise in knowledge at all. He cannot expect to get any progress in his sadhana. Arjuna is no victim to this. Arjuna is no victim to this canker. Arjuna is no victim to this canker. He is all magnanimity and broad-minded. Arjuna was free from this. So he was fit to receive this knowledge. So that is why the Lord chose to give this knowledge to Arjuna.
Just 1 minute.
That is why Arjuna was chosen to receive this knowledge from the Lord. Even when an aspirant goes to a guru, the guru does not give him the upadesha of the secret mantra immediately. He keeps the disciple with him for some time, or he asks him to come again after some time, during which time he gets himself prepared or gets more purified to receive the mantra. So the mantra is given only when he is perfectly fit, and Guru is sure that he will make proper use of the mantra. Now, the sovereign science, the sovereign secret, the supreme purifier is this: directly realizable in accord with Dharma, very easy to practice, and is imperishable. Now he is going to give you what the secret is. Men devoid of Shraddha for this Dharma do not attain me, but return to the path of the immortal world. And again, giving importance to the secret he was going to reveal to Arjuna. All this universe is pervaded by me in my unmanifested form. All beings exist in me, but I do not abide in them. This is the secret he is revealing to Arjuna. To receive this secret, a certain amount of purification of the mind is necessary. And when Arjuna was found ready, and the time was also proper, Sri Krishna revealed this. All this universe is pervaded by me. The Lord says, the whole universe is pervaded by me. That is, his universal form was told to Arjuna, not shown, but told to Arjuna. O Arjuna, my real form is the all-pervading existence. That is in my unmanifested form. No name or form there, but as the Spirit, I am pervading the entire universe and beyond. Now all beings exist in me. All those forms you see, all those humans, animals, and anything that you see in the universe, they all exist in me. That if we think of the all-pervading infinite existence of God, naturally all these names and forms are in Him only. But I do not abide in them. That is another secret. All these are existing in me. All the forms are existing in me, but I do not exist in some. They are existing in me. I cannot be contained in them, because I am infinite existence. I cannot be contained in them. So nobody can say that I am existing inside. In fact, there is another way. God is everything. God is in everything, and everything is in God. That way, because He is all-pervading, everything, God is in everything also. Because when He is all-pervading, any object seen contains God also. That way, He is in everything. But here He says, I do not abide in them. I do not abide, I do not contain in my entirety in them. My real being cannot be contained in anything. That is the meaning of it. Here he says, the explanation is this. As waves take their origin from the sea and sport on it, all beings from Brahman down to a blade of grass take their origin in Brahman and rest on him. As waves take their origin from the sea and sport on it, we see the waves on the ocean. Like that, ocean is compared to the all-pervading existence of God, and the waves are so-called the names and forms on that all-pervading Brahman. So all these names and forms are resting on Brahman, or contained in Brahman. But as the sea is not contained in the waves, we cannot say that the sea is contained in the waves. Waves are in the sea, but the sea is not contained in the waves. So also, God, the all-pervading God, is not contained in any object that is seen in the manifestation. As the sea is not contained in the waves, the unmanifest Brahman is not contained in the manifest beings. That's the meaning of that. He is infinite while the other things are finite. He is infinite. He has no beginning nor end. He is all-pervading. But whereas the other things are finite. that is a thing to be meditated upon, is all-pervading existence in which everything is. Everything exists in him. Next thing is, nor do the beings dwell in me. Again he says, nor do the beings dwell in me. Behold, my divine yoga, bringing forth and supporting the beings, myself does not dwell in them. Again, this appears to be contradicting the previous sentence. Nor do beings dwell in me. In the previous he says, everything is in me. Now he says, nor do the beings dwell in me. Behold my divine yoga, bringing forth and supporting the beings, myself does not dwell in them. While truly reflecting the objects placed before it, a mirror ever remains unaffected by its function. See the commentary. While truly reflecting the objects placed before it, we place some objects before a mirror, a huge mirror. You say, we put so many objects before it. A mirror reflects the objects there, but the mirror ever remains unaffected by its function. Similarly to this, Brahman has the divine yoga power to bring forth the universe and the beings out of himself. Brahman has the power of Maya, or power, which is called Shakti. By that power, he brings out, or in another language, projects himself as different beings, different names and forms. There is a grandeur, uniformity, precision, plan and purpose in projecting, preserving and withholding the universe. You see, the whole thing, though it appears to be a projection or transitory, it has a regular uniformity, precision, plan and purpose in this. But Brahman is ever himself in the midst of this sport. Brahman is ever himself in the midst of this sport. Though this sport is going on, the manifestation is going on, the play is going on, with ever changing. But the Brahman, that is the mirror, does not change at all. It is there always. He is unattached and unaffected by the phenomenon. Though he is responsible for this projection, though the projection has come out from him only, he is unaffected by whatever happens in the projection, that is in the manifestation. Compare chapter 7, stanza 12. That stanza says, compare chapter 7, stanza 12. All this. Yeah, this stanza says, whatever beings are of sattva, rajas or tamas, know them to proceed from me. That is, everything in the creation, where of sattva, rajas or tamas, everything is proceeding from me. Still, I am not in them. Still, I am not in them. They are in me. This is a sloka in the earlier chapter. According to the commentator, the Prakriti or nature constituted out of three categories, sattva, rajas and tamas, has its origin and sustenance in Ishvara. But it is not like the curd coming from milk. All this Prakriti has come out of Ishvara, but it is not like the curd coming from milk. Just as a piece of rope appears as a snake in twilight, the Lord puts on the appearance of nature through his inscrutable Maya. This is the beauty there. We say the manifestation has come out from God himself, the Ishvara himself, from Brahman himself. Or rather, the manifestation is a projection of the Brahman. But though we express it in this language, we form different ideas. Immediately it may strike to us as butter or curds coming out of milk. Is that the way? No, it is. It is like, just as a piece of rope appears as a snake in twilight. It is like this, not like butter coming out of milk, but it is like our seeing a snake in a rope. It is a snake correctly, rightly, but we see it as a rope because of our ignorance, because we don't know the truth about it. Why he appears like a snake? We could make others see him as a rope. He appears as a snake because he wants to appear as a snake. He wants to appear as different names and forms, as innumerable forms, as human beings and animals and so on and so forth. He has put on this or game because of his own Maya, the illusory power. Because of the illusory power, we see him as different names and forms. There is absolutely no change taking place in him. The milk does not turn into curds or butter. The milk remains as milk, but appears to be butter or curd. Brahman remains as Brahman, but he appears as different names and forms. So what we see before us, all these trees, all these buildings, all these materials, all these men and women sitting before us, are all nothing but Brahman appearing as these different forms. The rope, the original stuff, does not depend for its being on snake, the assumed reality. The rope, the original stuff, does not depend for its being on snake, the assumed reality, but the seeing snake depends for its existence on the rope. But the seeming snake depends for its existence on the rope. See again here, the rope, the original stuff, does not depend for its being on snake. The snake remains a snake. It has nothing to do, no, the rope remains a rope. It has nothing to do with the snake. Whereas the seeming snake, what we saw as snake, had something there which was considered a snake. The rope was the basis. That is, like what we see before us, all these names and forms have their basis, have their substratum as the Brahman. The snake really did not exist, but at the same time it had a substratum, the rope. But the seeming snake depends for its existence on the rope. Without the rope we would not have seen the snake. So without the Brahman we would not have seen this manifestation at all. The Brahman, the substratum, is real, on which we saw the illusory form, snake, or the universe. To put it in another way, the unreal snake is a superimposition on the real rope. The unreal snake is a superimposition on a rope. What we saw, what really was a snake, was a rope. But our ignorance superimposed on it the snake. Simply there is a rope lying there. By mistake or by ignorance, we considered it a snake. But there must be something to say that we saw a snake. That means at least there must be the rope there on which we superimposed a snake. So Brahman, the real existence, has no name or form. Because of ignorance, we superimpose on it the innumerable names and forms, the entire universe. To put it in another way, the unreal snake is a superimposition on the real rope. Similarly, the world of three gunas is a superimposition on Ishvara. This power of appearing as Prakriti is inherent in him. This power of appearing as the Prakriti is inherent in the Lord. This is the meaning of I am not in them. They are in me. I am not in them. They are in me. This is the meaning of it. The goal of human life is to transcend the perception of the universe and to get fixed in the vision of Ishvara, that is, the substratum. So, when we see any name or form, any material before us, it must come to our mind that this is not actually what is real, but the real is appearing as this. The real is a substratum for this. The real is nameless, formless, all-pervading Atman or reality. And what we see before us is the superimposition by our own mind. That is why certain jnanis, they say, those who attain jnana, whom we call jnanis, their vision is completely different. They see the world as Brahman. though they may see the names and forms, they are 100% conscious that these are all superimpositions of the mind, and the reality is Brahman, that is the substratum for this entire manifestation. That is the vision that all of us have to attain. The goal of human life is to transcend the perception of the universe and to get fixed in the vision of Ishvara, the substratum. Now we go to chapter 12 again. Chapter 9. Where are we now? No, this we have read. As the mighty wind moving everywhere ever rests in the Akasha, know you that so do all being rest in me. Next sentence of the Lord. As the mighty wind moving everywhere ever rests in the Akasha, know you that so do all being rest in me. Akasha is the origin and background of the other four elements. Akasha, ether, is the origin and background of the other four elements. At the same time, it remains unattached to the other elements. Akasha is now, though all other elements rest in him, Akasha is not attached or anyway affected by the other elements. Even so, the manifested universe that has come forth from Brahman causes no modification or mutation in him. Like that, the manifested universe that has come forth, that has projected forth from Brahman, is ever changing, ever moving, ever changing, does not cause any change in the substratum, that is, ever change in Brahman. An understanding of the way of Akasha is the comprehension of Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna gives an example to this. Though the wind carries the good and bad color or bad order alike, it remains unaffected by both. Parabrahman is in this wise unaffected by the phenomenon universe. The wind carries both good and bad order. Somewhere you find bad order, sometimes you find good order. But the wind is not affected by either. So also Parabrahman, in which the entire universe moves, is unaffected by this movement or changes that are taking place. So many things are taking place in this universe. See, another simile is given of the film shown on a screen. The pictures are moving. So many things are taking place in the film. Some murders are taking place, some fights are going on, some fire is there, but the screen remains unaffected by those things. That is the nearest example. All beings go into my Prakriti at the end of a kalpa. I generate them again at the beginning of the next kalpa. All beings go into my Prakriti at the end of a kalpa. I generate them again at the beginning of the next kalpa. Kalpa is a period. There are 4 yugas. Containing millions and millions of years. Birth takes place, birth of the universe takes place, preservation of the universe takes place, and finally destruction of the universe takes place at the end of this particular period. It involves innumerable millions of years. I cannot give you the exact calculation of how many yugas make a kalpa and all that. But beginning, all the jivas who are latent in the Lord Himself take birth when the universe or the creation of the universe begins. Gradually it grows, all these things grow up, and a stage is reached when the Lord feels it is time to come to an end of all these things. That is called pralaya. Everything gets merged in the Lord Himself as water at that time, and everything remains merged in Him in a very latent form. All those jivas, individual souls, remain latent in the Lord Himself for as many years as the creation existed before that, for the same period as it means as if it is a day and that is night. So many kalpas, say one kalpa, pralaya comes after how many kalpas, Swamiji? Pralaya comes after how many kalpas, they say? There are so many millions of years. Of course, we need not be so calculative about those things. The creation begins, and at the end of the creation, the pralaya takes place. After the pralaya, everything remains latent in the Lord Himself. And after so many years again, so many millions of years again, the creation begins. Again, the whole thing is repeated. So that is why the Lord says, all these names and forms, all these beings go into my prakriti at the end of kalpa. I generate them again at the beginning of the next kalpa. That is the pralaya, and again creation begins. When Brahman, the creator, goes to sleep, it is the end of a kalpa. That is the commentators. Extending into 1,000 yugas. Oh, here it is. 1,000 yugas. So many millions and millions of years. The present creation will end after many, many years, many millions of years. Extending into 1,000 yugas. He works into an incalculable crores of years of the human standard. Then the entire manifestation goes into the unmanifest state and remains dormant for an equally long period, which is Brahman's night. Now it is Brahma's day. It is too much for our puny intellect to calculate. And when Brahma's night begins, the whole thing is merged in water, and every being in his latent form remains in the Lord to spend the entire night. And then again the day begins. When he wakes up again, the universe with the multitudinous beings comes into manifestation. This is an eternal process. Goes on.
Similarly, the individual sleep. The vasanas we sleep in the night. The moment you get up,
we remain in the Lord as jivas with all our vasanas, or the tendencies latent in us. And when you take birth again, we come back with the old tendencies. to work out our prarabdha. Our prarabdhas don't die there. We come back again to work out the same prarabdha, even though it may be many, many millions of years later. So, if we realize God now, we will not be born again. So let us put an end to this cycle of birth and death now itself. That is why all the saints have been hammering on us. Try to put an end to this cycle of birth and death. Don't have to be born again. Finish it now itself. Now the Lord says, animating my Prakriti, I send forth again and again all this multitude of beings helpless under the regime of Prakriti. All these beings, including all of us here, and unless we realize God now, we go back to Him absolutely helpless. We remain there helpless. We have to return there absolutely helpless. Animating my Prakriti, I send forth again and again all this multitude of beings helpless under the regime of Prakriti. Now, the act of animating the Prakriti takes place on a miniature scale at the level of our existence. Waking up in the morning, all beings writhe, wriggle and twist their limbs in order to animate them. Waking up in the morning, all beings writhe, wriggle and twist their limbs in order to animate them. We animate the field by ploughing it. The beast is animated with a whip. The pupil is animated a shake-up. In all these acts, spirit is infused into matter. At the beginning of a kalpa, Prakriti comes from the unmanifest to the manifest state, being animated by the Purusha. Beings then helplessly and spontaneously come into existence, even as we helplessly wake up from sleep. Then, in spite of all this happening, the Atman or Parabrahman is absolutely actionless. He is not doing anything. To clear that doubt, the Lord says, nor do these acts bind me, who remain like one unconcerned, unattached to these acts. He is simply watching this game, making these helpless jivas to come again and play this game and suffer and again go back. Nor do these acts bind me, who remain like one unconcerned, unattached to these acts. So some people say, is it not cruel on his part to make us all play this dirty game and remain completely unattached himself? The very presence of the schoolmaster induces the student to his studies. The very presence of the schoolmaster induces the students to his studies. But things have changed now. Students don't obey these teachers. Likewise, the very proximity of Ishvara prevails on Prakriti to carry on her activities of creation, preservation and destruction. Likewise, the very proximity of Ishvara prevails on Prakriti to carry on her activities of creation, preservation and destruction. It is not merely the presence, it is by the strength of the Ishvara the Prakriti is able to do the creation. The theology designates Ishvara as a male principle and Prakriti as a female principle spouse to him. Karma pertains to Prakriti and not to Ishvara. The power of execution comes to her from her Lord, who is unconcerned and unattached to her activities. There he says clearly, the power of execution comes to her from the Lord, who remains unconcerned and unattached to her activities. He gives the power. He is not concerned what the Prakriti does. He is not questioning why you did this or why you did not do it. She is left to her to decide what she should do and what she should not. He remains completely unconcerned. Only he gives that power for her to act. The sadhaka in his turn has to practice unconcerned and unattached. The sadhaka in his turn has to practice unconcerned and unattachment to the duty that he discharges. And this is the means for his self-emancipation. This must be a lesson to the sadhaka, to remain like Brahman, who gives the power to the Prakriti to act, but unconcerned as to what the Prakriti does. So a sadhaka also can remain unconcerned and unattached to the duty that he discharges. That means he must feel that as Atman he is not doing anything, he is only giving the power to the body to act. It is the body that acts, not he himself. That means he must try to detach himself from the body and act unconcerned and unattached. I will stop here today. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram.
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram